Welcome to episode 14 of the Leeds Rhinos podcast. It's a Thursday. That means it's our Q&A edition. I'm Phil Daly, the head of media and PR. I'm delighted to be joined by our head of strength and conditioning, Adam Megretton, for this week's episode. And we're going to find out some details about how the blokes train, pre-season, what goes on during the week, what sort of food they're putting into the body to get them ready to take on the heat of Super League action. So we've got that coming up. So listen to that. And if you're interested in a career in strength and conditioning and working as a trainer in professional sport, Adam will give us some tips about how he got into it and what you need to do. So that will all be coming up later on. We've also got your questions. Thanks for those who sent them in. We've got some great topics, a real wide range of topics. And don't forget, each week you can send in your question to info@therhinos.co.uk and we'll get the answers from the people that matter from around the club. So send in your questions and we'll get you those answers. So you're no longer in the dark, you're in the full picture of everything going on here at Leeds Rhinos. Don't forget to make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date with all our podcasts. We've got loads of great podcasts out at the moment for the Rhinos. We've got our Box 2 with Best Western GB Hotels with Ryan Hall, which is a fantastic sit-down with Ryan and Jamie Jones Buchanan. And then this week, fantastic news. The Ashes are coming back to AMT Headingley. We've got the third test here. And there's a great feature on our Leeds Rugby League Heritage podcast with Professor Tony Collins talking about the unique relationship between AMT Headingley Stadium and the Ashes going back to the very start of the international game. So make sure you check that out and give us a subscribe. Give us your comments below and make sure you give us a 5-star review so we continue to spread the word about Leeds Rhinos and all these podcast content we're getting out this season. Thanks for the brilliant feedback you've been giving us. I hope you're enjoying them. We'll keep them coming and we hope you can keep on enjoying them. It's great to have you on board here in the Q&A studio. Just mentioned there about the training the lads go through. Let's go back a few months to pre-season. That's obviously where you're doing your real hardcore work with them. How did pre-season go, and what goes into planning for pre-season?
It was busy and it went well. From a planning point of view, it probably started even as the previous season is going on. You start to have conversations about it. Mainly with Brad. Me and Brad sort of coming up with how we want the days to look. He might tell me the themes that he wants to hit on certain days, how he wants training to look in terms of the full week, and then what that looks like each day. We just plan and manipulate the variables that matter from a physical point of view to come up with the best training program over a 10 to 12 week block that maximizes, for me, the physical adaptations inside of it and the physical preparation of getting them ready for a full season, and for the coaches and Brad, the technical and tactical side of it. How do we introduce load from a running point of view at the start? Where do we want to get to at the end? Where do they want to start from a offense, defense, skill acquisition point of view, and sort of mold all that together into a training week? And then how does each week fit in a 12-week, 10-week pre-season? The biggest thing for me is you're trying to get physical adaptation and try to push them to the limit, but not push them past the limit. And that's really hard to do. And there's always a balancing act there of how much work do you put into them and how much rest and recovery do they need. And that might be different for different players at different stages of the career as well. So a lot goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned different players, different stages. Presumably, it's got to be quite bespoke to
Yeah.
you've got like an Alfie Edgell or a Riley Lum or even Presley Cassell getting involved there, right through to Ryan Hall, and then a new like Keenan Pulaski comes out of an NRL system. You've got Jake Connor, who by his own admission doesn't like doing an awful lot of running in pre-season, and so finding that mix must be a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is. And the biggest thing there with the new players is building relationships with them. That's part of the job. Is I could have the best training program in place, but if I don't have a clue where they've come from and what they've been doing previously and what their previous injury history is, what they like to do in the gym and don't like to do, what they've come from in the previous 12 months, that's massive. And then that will guide me and us in our decision making as to how much to do, what to do. So you get like a Presley Cassell or these academy lads that might train with us once a week or twice a week. Their training age, in my mind, is 1 or 2 in terms of how long they've been in intensive gym and physical preparation program. And then you get Ryan Hall at the other end of the spectrum, who's in year probably around about year 20, 18 to 20. What he needs versus what they need is a lot different. But then we are training as a team, and they all need to do some things together. So it is a balancing act. For me, definitely in the gym, it's a previous injury history of, when we sign a new player, or a player comes into our environment, what are they coming in with recently and just generally, and how can we best prepare them and treat them during the week. A lot of conversations with Fergie, the physio, working really closely with him. What does player X need versus player Y? So we're a team, it's a team sport, but we have to prepare them like they're individuals.
Yeah, I was going to mention about Fergie and that sort of hand-in-glove approach between you and the medical staff. That must be vital.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, it was great to see Lockie Miller back recently, but Lockie's had his challenges during pre-season. So, you work closely with the medical team to monitor all those things, presumably?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we use GPS. We monitor every training session that we do, every session that someone in rehab will do. So we get a consistent picture of where they're at from a running point of view and where they've come from, whether that's within the past 7 days, within the last 14 days, within the last 3 months, 6 months. And then we make decisions off the back of that. I deal mainly with the main squad. So like today, the top 17 that are playing tomorrow, the ones that I worry about. We have the physios, Fergie and Pat, and my assistant Charlie looking at, say the reserves play tonight, so what's their week look like, and do they need to be different to the first team? Well, they also need to be in our main session, but then they have a game on this day, on a Thursday, whereas we play on a Friday. And then we have our rehab players that are on a completely different schedule, whatever's best for them and their injury and where they are in their rehab timeline. So just a lot of moving parts that the communication between us four has to be as tight as it can be.
Yeah, we'll come back to some more questions. We'll get into the season, how that looks on a week-to-week basis. We've got some questions that have been emailed in from the fans. And we'll start with one from Drew Leach, and also Alex Sharp sent in a very similar question. It says, looking at FC and KR followings this year, particularly FC with their free coaches, etc., having some huge followings, have we thought about doing something similar to try and get more fans down to support the boys? As we've seen at home, especially versus Wigan, the fans make a huge difference to the players. Well, Drew, thanks for that question. I did speak to Sean Jones, who's, as you know, our head of customer experience and deals with a lot of our travel and our initiative for fans. And it's certainly something we're thinking about later in the year, doing some subsidised travel for games and making sure, really looking at a game that's could be quite big, even bigger, really get a big away following. And a lot of that has to do with the away team. We work with the away team to make sure that they can accommodate our travelling fans and come to an arrangement that suits us all, so that we can make sure that we can at least cover our costs on that. It does make such a difference to the players, doesn't it, when there's a big travelling fan base at away grounds.
And especially like when we go out for warm-up, especially at an away ground, when you see a big away following, you can see the lift the boys get, even just running out at the start of a warm-up. It's massive for them, and it encourages you as soon as you get out onto the field, which always helps. Yeah,
so make sure you do get along and support the boys away from home in the next couple of weeks. Another question came from Rob Graham. Any plans for a Rob Borrow Memorial at AMT Headingley? Not far off 1 year anniversary of him passing, and wonder if there are any plans. Well, great question, Rob. And that is something we're constantly discussing and coming up with. There will be something in due course. What that will look like, we don't know at the moment. We do still have all the shirts and scarves and things that were left when Rob passed here. So they're going to be using it as some sort of memorial that will sort of mark Rob's passing here at the stadium. But we're all looking at something a bit bigger than that as well. That hopefully in due course we'll be able to give you some more details. There was originally, some of you might remember, plans for a statue, so that's still on the table that we're looking at, and where that might be sited around the stadium. So that, personally from my point of view, it needs to be somewhere where every day people see it, whether they're coming here for a rugby league game or international test cricket. I think Rob's profile and what Rob did for the M&D community is so big that actually it transcends just us at the Rhinos and even rugby league. So that's sort of the discussion in. But if anyone's got any ideas that they think they may be seen somewhere else, put a comment in below and let us know what you think. But yeah, definitely plans still there. It's certainly not disappeared, Rob. and we'll be looking to make that happen. Coming up on the 31st of May, we've got our M&D awareness round when we take on Wakefield here at AMT Headingley. So that's going to be a very special night. I was talking with Jeff and this week about our plans for that. We've got a very special shirt. I'll give you that exclusive there. We're going to do another fundraising shirt for that. It's a very special design that hopefully we'll be able to give you a bit more details in the next couple of weeks. But Jeff was delighted with it when he saw it. And again, that's going to raise much needed funds to support the M&D community. So we're working on that, and that should be a special night. And of course, we've got the Rob Borough Leeds Marathon that starts and ends here at the stadium that we're absolutely honoured to host as always. Just another quick one from the emails before we go back to chatting a bit more about training with the players. This comes from Rod Boom, and I really hope that's a genuine name. That's a brilliant name. I mean, it should be a wrestler. Rod Boom, brilliant. So Rod asks, just wondering when the clock above the AMT East Stand is going to show the correct time. By the way, I'm not volunteering to climb up a ladder to do the job. Well, me neither, Rod. But just to let you know, I did go to our maintenance team, Steve, who does a fantastic job around the stadium this morning, and I said, Rob Boone wants to know when the clock's going to be fixed, and he was able to tell me, now this is important, because we're talking about clocks, we're talking about timing, he was able to tell me that Smiths of Derby are coming up to the stadium on the 31st of March at 1 p.m, to fix the clock. So precise timing for a precise piece of timing there. So hopefully that will get resolved. We've had usually we've tried to restart, and that's normally fixed the problem we've had. But we need to get the top men onto the job now, or women, don't know who works at Smiths of Derby. So they'll come up and get that fixed on the 31st of March. So that should hopefully sort that out. Just going back to the training environment with the players, obviously we're based down at the Bartercard training complex down at Kirkstall. What does a regular week-to-week, so if it's a 7-day week, Friday to Friday, so what does that week look like for the training purposes?
So if we've played the Friday and we're playing the following Friday, so we'd call that a 7-day turnaround, and we work backwards from the game. So the way we do our days, we would go on a week like that, play Friday night, have the weekend to rest and recover. Brad would expect everyone to watch the game and watch everything that they need to be able to come in Monday and do a review. So we'd have a lower intensity day. We'd call that a G-4 day. So that would be unit skills, sort of work on your craft, review your game. And we sort of say that once that day is done, we draw a line in the sand and we're on to what we'd call our G-3. That's our main training day. So for me, physically, I want us on that day to train for certain periods of time, depending on the status of the group, and again, where we've come from in terms of the last few weeks, at game intensity or above game intensity. So that would be our main training day. Brad will want certain things from that day. There'll be certain aspects that are always in that day. We try not to be too reactive with that. Try to be consistent. So main training day, G-3. We'll then give them a day off on the Wednesday, and then we do a captain's run G-1, which is a light sort of sharpen the knife sort of day, and freshen them up into the game. It's almost like a mini pre-season in a week. It's a steady introduction of load, then it's the highest day, then it's a sort of taper into a game. If you think of that over a pre-season, that happens over a 10-week period. And then within those weeks, there's tapering and there's times to push them. That's all it is in a week. And the games or the match schedule dictates when we can push and when we can't push. So we're just reactive off that.
And that G-3, that intense day, how do you measure that intensity? I know they obviously have the GPS pouches that people have seen a lot of, but are you measuring distance, heart rate, forces involved? What constitutes intensity?
Well, we know what intensive periods are in the game and what the numbers look like from a meters per minute point of view, using the GPS, from an axle density point of view, just from a general total duration of time in play. And off the back of that, we can say, what do we need this week? What was the game like the previous week? How much time have we spent in the last 3 to 4 weeks of what I would call continuous rugby drills? And then I will go to Brad and say, I think we need this week. And he might come back and say, I want something different, or it be in agreement. It's just all dictated by the schedule. Like we've just gone short turnaround, long turnaround. So obviously in those short turnarounds where we've played Friday night into Saturday, we went to Catalan. Sorry, the other way around. So Catalan into a short turnaround the week after that, into a short turnaround. You can't train as much. So then when you get the chance to train a little bit more, like last week, and we're on an 8-day turnaround, we increase the amount of time we'll spend in those kind of drills. So when the schedule allows us to train a bit more, we'll train a bit more, knowing that if we're on a long turnaround, chances are what's coming after that is a short turnaround. So we won't be able to train as much there.
Yeah, you're borrowing from the next
Exactly.
week. Yeah, exactly. And presumably, fuel is a big important part of that. You know, what the players eat, and also supplements and things like that. What's that generally look like for? I presume it changes depending on Mick compared to Lockie, but
yeah, it does. It does. Days and nutrition should be based off activity levels for these guys, and body composition aims and physical status generally. So for certain players, that would be certain supplements that we feel they need to maximize their training availability and performance. For other players, they might need a different set of supplements. We're not actually that big on I'd rather than be whole food as possible. Like, if you can't have the sleep, nutrition, and hydration basics down to a T, then the supplement side of it's not as valuable. But on our main training day, the food that we provide them will be higher in carbohydrates. Just sort of stocking up on glycogen stores, knowing that they're going to be doing more activity on that training day. On our lower training day, the first one, the G-4, we'd be more fat-based. We might try to provide them with some oily fish, for example, and that aids in inflammation and just helping the recovery process that might still be going on from the previous game. And then we give them information as to how to cap best carb load going into a game. So the 24 to 48 hours pre-match is when they would start to load on carbohydrates to maximize their glycogen stores going into a game. But again, that might differ for different players. We might have some players that I'm always onto them body composition wise, and they wouldn't be doing that as much. They might play lower minutes. They don't need to do it as much. Our high minute boys is where that would come into effect a little bit more.
Yeah, and you might have seen recently we've advertised for a new first team chef. Phil Moore has done a fantastic job over the last few years. Phil's moving on, but he's done a great job.
Yeah.
He's a real part of the team, and there's a great opportunity there for someone. If you go on to the Rhinos website, you find more details there. But see the food that he produces, and I suppose one of the big things these days talk about colour, don't they?
Yep.
The range of colours that the players are eating really shows that all that recovery that's in all the goodness that's in all that food.
Yeah. And the big thing there is, like I always say to the players, and I look at it in my job. I'm, at the start of every week after the previous game, I look and go, what do I need to do to best prepare them for the next game? We're trying to tell the boys it's on them to, what do they need to do to best prepare for the next game or the next training session? We're always trying to control everything they can, and the big thing that we battle, especially in pre-season, is missed training days through illness. And so if we can have a healthy, balanced diet, get the right amount of sleep, always be hydrated each training day, and generally hydrate themselves correctly, they'll maximise their training availability. And if they maximise the training availability, they're more likely to have a successful season or in-season period. So it all sort of trickles into the other. So if you don't have your hydration or your nutrition on point, and then you miss a day through illness, but you haven't touched a vegetable for 2 weeks, it becomes have you controlled everything you can control? Are you doing what you need to do as a professional athlete? So there's a bit of onus on them, whilst the onus on us is providing them with that, and we'll do everything we can to provide the best food options that we have available.
Yeah, and that's great advice, even for a young player. If you're a teenager who thinks I want to have a crack at being a professional player, the temptation would be, right, what protein shake can I get, and what can I do? And actually getting a good spread of vegetables and fruit and eating the right things keep yourself healthy so you can train every week and play every week is the best thing. Is one of the best things you can do. We'll go back to some more questions that we've had on email. Philip Clarkson emailed in, anything in the pipeline for the stand over the Western Terrace? Well, good question, Philip. I think Rob Oates touched on this when he was joined us a couple of weeks back now, talking about the Western Terrace. It is something with the club would like to do at some point in the future. It's quite an expensive project because of the logistics around it. As you can imagine, we've got the houses on the turnaways there. We've got the public ginnel that runs around the back of there that we don't own that land. We've got a piece of land there that's sandwiched in between obviously our two stands, and in an ideal world where money wasn't an issue, I'm sure we could come up with a solution for that one, but it's got to be economically viable for the club. We're not going to put the future of the club at risk on it. So it is something, but it's definitely something the club would like to do if we were able to into the future. But we'll just have to wait and see when that's possible for us to do. Lorraine Hardwick asked, does the club ever do tours of the stadium that people can pay to go on and see behind the scenes? I've been on tours at Anfield and Old Trafford and would love to do something similar at the Rhinos. Great question, Lorraine. That is something we're talking about. We've got put a real emphasis on heritage this year. If anyone who's been listening to the Leeds Rugby League Heritage podcast that we've been putting out, we'll be able to see that. And of course, we've got our brilliant Hall of Fame dinner coming up in the next few weeks. We'll put some details in the section below so you can find out about that. You can book your ticket. That's going to be an incredible night when we celebrate 20 years on from becoming the World Club Champions for the first time in 2005, and of course 10 years on from that never to be forgotten treble winning season in 2015, and a lot of the boys, including the skipper Kevin Sinfield, will be there, so you want to be at that one. But yeah, heritage is a big thing for us. You may have seen in the tunnel the things we've got there, and it is something we are looking to do, tours, both educational ones, which the foundation are leading on that one, and we're speaking to a number of providers who work on these sort of projects to really to up our game on that one, and it's something we've talked about, especially around the Ashes, when there'll be so many tourists coming to the city in November, looking to do something special then. So great question, Lorraine, and yeah, definitely something we're considering. And then Josh Biggs has emailed, and Josh is a prolific on X. Always got plenty to say for himself as Josh, and he asks, are we going to Vegas? Well, are we going to Vegas, Grex? Well, we'd like to. Certainly, I don't think it's any secret that we've submitted our interest in going, whether that's next year or the year after. I can reveal that this week, myself and Rob Oates met with the NRL on a call. They've been meeting with all the clubs who've shown an interest to go through what Las Vegas looks like from a club point of view. It was a really good meeting, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have a decision on that. But certainly we'd like to be going to Las Vegas. It's certainly something as a club where we saw the fantastic work that Wigan and Warrington did. Kudos to them guys for really getting the ball rolling there. It's become a fantastic occasion. No confirmation yet, but hopefully, Josh, in the next couple of weeks, we might have some more clear guidance on that. But definitely, the wheels are moving in the right direction. So we'll see where that gets us. Just in terms of some of the questions we normally get in, and you are the man to answer this. That people are intrigued by this sort of thing. Who's the fastest? Who's the strongest? Yeah. So go on, out the squad. Who are the speedsters?
Fastest. Right now, because he's just come in. Ethan Clark-Wood has got a bit about him, and I think he's ran the fastest so far in the games, first team and reserve grade so far this year. Ash is always up there, of course. You've got the McCormack twins. There's a few forwards that want to be on there, actually. There's a few. Sambo likes to think he's got a bit about him. Tom does. Yeah,
unfortunately with Sambo, we saw that last week. That he didn't quite have the acceleration to get away from Bevan French.
No. Strongest. You've sort of Hall is in his own little class. Behind him, you'd have Tom, Micah when he wants to. Who else? Who? There's a couple that'll want me to mention them, and I just don't want to mention them because it'll annoy them.
We're not going to mention you, Jared.
Oh no, not Jared. No chance. Harold's got a bit about him. when he's in the mood. But yeah, no, generally they're a young, fit, and healthy bunch.
And what sort of weights is Hawley lifting to?
What's he lifting? God, I don't know if he'd want me to say. What did he do in pre-season? He maybe benched 160. Did he get 160? He might have got 160 for a triple. Squatted maybe around 250. Box squatted 250 for a triple, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah, they're probably the biggest numbers that we have in our group. I don't think anyone's got too close to him.
Has it changed? I mean, you've been in Golden Game a long time. Has it changed that are they more sort of rounded athletes as opposed to being able to do them big numbers?
I would say so. Generally in my role, the trend of S&C has probably gone from being, because we originate from a powerlifting and weightlifting background, generally does S&C 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we are now using more data and there's more out there that's showing that power and rate of force development is sort of king over strength. Strength will only get you so far. It's not necessarily the strongest players are not necessarily the best players. So when we have force plates and we utilize them for a lot of our programming down at Kirkstall, and the players who can produce force fast and traditionally the ones that physically perform better on the field. So for example, in S&C, generally the trend of it's not so much how much do they bench, it's how high do they jump. And then even when you go into detail of that, it's not how high they jump, it's how fast do they jump. So we look at relative peak power, jump height, inner jump. We have some standards there. We know what is very good. We know what is good. We know what is not so good. And the trend for me is and I just look at the game from a physical point of view of, can they bust tackles, break tackles, dominate defensively, and cause missed tackles. The trend is the ones who are better on that test are better at those things. And that's what matters for the game. And that's just not just me doing that. That's just generally sport, football, rugby league, rugby union, American football. Generally, that's where it's going.
Our next question, talking around the squad and how we develop the squad. The next question came in talking about speculation around players moving clubs. Players who are out of contract. We're here Thursday morning. There's been some rumours in the press regarding one of our players and a potential move to the NRL. So we went to our sporting director, Ian Blease, to answer that particular question. Our next question comes from John McDonald, and John asks us about the recruitment process, in particular those players who are out of contract. And you'll have seen a lot of speculation, not just with Leeds players, but other players around Super League, about where they're going for next season. It's a bit of a silly season when it comes to that sort of speculation. And he's asking us, should fans read into speculation they see on the internet regarding players and their future? Well, the main man to speak to on that is our sporting director, Ian Blease, who deals with all the players on their contract negotiations. Ian, I suppose it is a tricky time of year. You've got agents who want to do their best by their players. You've got clubs who want to do the best deal for the club and for the player. Does it get tricky at times this time of year?
Yeah, I think this year is the first year of it becoming a player in his last year of his contract is available from the 1st of December. So he's free to talk to other clubs from the 1st of December, where it used to be May. So it's a bit early now, a few months earlier. So yeah, it's a busy time at the moment. We're obviously doing the right things by our players. Should you read too much in the press to it? Yeah, probably you can do, but sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. But I'm just looking after the Leeds club and our players are out of contract. So I'm in the mid of negotiations with 3 or 4 of our existing players, and hopefully we'll get them over the line very soon.
And presumably that's the important thing, that you're constantly talking to them and they know where you're at. So even if they're reading speculation, they've heard it direct from you.
Yeah, and that's dead important to me. The relationship with the agent is first and foremost, and the player, the most important thing to get right at the start of negotiations. Try and be honest with each other, see where you are. There's always a difference in opinions, isn't there? And some players do move on, but we want to keep the group we've got. I believe in this group. We need some additions if we can as well, but we're working on the existing players and keeping them for the forthcoming season. seasons.
And it's that juggling act with the salary cap, because obviously you have players who perform well in a year and deserve an uplift, but it's all got to fit into the same cap.
Yeah, every club's on the same cap, Phil. So this is that's what the cap was designed to do, to make sure, I think, that clubs could get other players from other clubs if they couldn't fit them in the cap, and that's working pretty well, because a lot of teams can beat each other now on the day. So we've got quite a competitive Super League, but I'm just more concerned about keeping our existing players who are believing, and Brad's on the same wavelength with me on that as well. So hopefully we can get them negotiations through the line over the next coming weeks.
Well, thanks for that insight, Ian. And I suppose the message is, if you want to see the official news, you'll hear it first from the Rhinos, and we'll have, once those contracts are nice and inked, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, you'll hear about it first officially from the Rhinos. Well, hopefully that answers your question there in terms of that speculation. As I said there, always comes to the Rhinos for the official news. We'll have it first ahead of anyone else. And in terms of preparation for a game and things like that, we talked about, obviously getting them ready for it. We then come on to game day itself. Fans will have seen the players out in the field doing the warm up. That seems to be very sort of structured in what we're doing. Is that sort of to get them into that muscle memory, getting ready to get into the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain elements of the warm up is designed by us and the coaches. And if you watch both teams at every game you went to, you'd see that there's not much difference between them. It's not like you're trying to do anything or anything's a secret. It's just preparing the lads to go do what they need to do. From a physical point of view, it is the principles of getting them ready to run, change direction, run fast in a straight line, complete their position-specific tasks safely and effectively, and have them in a position to be able to go do the job. And from a rugby point of view and the coach's point of view, it's a similar thing. It's preparing them positionally and generally as a team to go do their jobs. So putting them in drills that replicates the movements and skills required in a match. So there's no real secret about it. We'll start off steady. We'll build up into it. We'll go into some position-specific stuff. We'll get contact prep done, especially with langers, so we're ready for the physical side of it. And then we'll finish off with a kick sprint. Most teams will do it. It's the most intensive part of the warm-up. We'll be ready to sprint maximally, and then we're back in the sheds. And everything's just on a tight schedule. We know what time we need to go out at, how long the warm-up is, so then how long we'll have till kick-off once we go inside. But once we get a few games into it like we are now, it just becomes pretty smooth.
And you mentioned how important data is, and you're obviously constantly collecting data during the games as well. Yeah. We see the stats after the game, which is gain line meters and things like that. But in terms of the amount of meters a players covering a game, obviously back 10 and everything else that involved, what sort of distances are they covering in a match?
If you play 80 minutes, you'd be above. Different teams will cut the data differently. Anywhere from 7.5 to 9 kilometres if you play 80 minutes, depending on position. There'll be certain players that run more, there'll be certain players run less. Everyone always wants to use the game data to predict performance or judge performance. Through the years that I've been doing it, there's no necessarily no set numbers for each position that they need to hit to have played well. It's just there to guide us and adds to the picture of their weekly numbers. We then use the game data generally in terms of from an intensity point of view as to how well did we do in the intensive moments of the game. But I don't read too much into it because I feel like you could go down a rabbit hole there.
And our final question we've had in it's our kit, and in particular, an eagle-eyed fan has spotted something on the kit and wanted an explanation. So we went to the kit king himself, Glyn Bell, for an answer. This next question's coming from Harry Barker. It's another one about the Rhinos kit, and they've spotted, presumably on the games on Sky, maybe at the stadium, the different numbers the players have above the Rhinos badge and the kit. And from this year, there was always been a star. I think most people know that that's signifies if a player's come through the Rhinos pathway through the academy, but there's different colours on the shirts. I'm asking what they signify. Well, I've gone to the main man himself, Glyn Bell, to ask that question. Glyn, first of all, the numbers and then the different coloured stars, what do they mean?
Well, the numbers are the heritage number, which go back from when we started playing. They've actually on the wall in the tunnel, they've got the Rugby Union one prior to the Northern Union. And then each year, as the player makes his debut, these numbers are issued, so then we put them on the shirt. They're not on until the player actually plays a game, so then the next shirt will have his number on. We then have a silver star which notifies that they played for the academy, so that's a bit of note that they've actually played our academy rugby. And then this year, I had a word with Phil and we decided we have that many players over 100 games. We've now added, if you've played 100 Leeds Rhino games, you actually turn to a gold star on the shirt, and it's just a little note just to that they have actually played 100 games for the club.
Nice touch, Glenn, and I hope that answers your question. Well, there you go. That answers your question there. Hopefully it's resolved your curiosity. Just finally, and I'm just talking about, we said you've been involved in the game quite a while. How did you first get into it? Was it a career path you saw yourself going on, and sort of what tips would you give to anyone who wants to get into S&C?
So I played just like all the lads here, or the English lads here. I played at an amateur level, at a scholarship level, and academy level, and I just realised that this is what I wanted to do. So probably knew I was never going to make it to the top. So I was more interested in the physical preparation of it, and as a result, I went to university and studied sports science. During that time, went back and worked at previous club, intern, just put in the hours, sort of unpaid, volunteered, and just worked my way up from there. Then got academy gig at Huddersfield and worked at Huddersfield for 5 or 6 years, and then moved here and have moved up from there. The biggest thing for me in my role is putting yourself out there and asking and volunteering and getting the qualifications that you need to get your degree, do as much. Probably spent all of my 20s, not all of my 20s, but a lot of time was dedicated to reading and researching and listening to anyone and everyone that I could that was in this job, in different sports, different clubs. And then through experience and learning, you end up at a point where you're ready to prepare a team like this, which comes with time. So you've also got to be patient as well. But the biggest thing for me is I just see it as, for the boys, it's they're trying to, I won't say perfect, but consistently get better at their jobs as rugby league players and work out rugby league from a playing point of view. I'm always trying to work out rugby league for right now in terms of the sport, the physical preparation side of it. How can I best physically prepare each individual in the team for this week, for next week, for the week after, and in pre-season it's for that upcoming season. So it never stops. You never stop learning, and you're always learning the X's and O's of strength and conditioning, but you're also learning the relationship building and the managing of players, which probably the most enjoyable part, to be fair.
Well, that's great, Adam. Thanks for joining us. So great insight into what it takes to get these men onto the field and perform to their very best. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave us a review and also to subscribe to keep up to date with all the Leeds Rhinos podcasts that are coming out. Send us in your question. We'll be back next Thursday with another Q&A edition. Send it to info@therhinos.co.uk, and we'll be back on Monday with our match review, hopefully of a big win over at Warrington. It's the 5,000th ever Super League game, so it should be a great occasion over there at Halliwell Jones Stadium, and hopefully the boys can back up that big win against Wigan with another win over the wire. That'll be pretty special. Thanks for joining us, Adam, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, and this has been the Leeds Rhinos Q&A podcast.